is just one-on-one right now. Got past some.
This was the moment. Playoff series can be won or lost with statements such as these, and Anthony Edwards was the first to lay down the law. You could see in Keldon Johnson's face concern, while Edwards looked every bit the man confident his team would win. And it was the Timberwolves spamming this one play that got them enough separation to hang on for dear life at the very end. A simple Iverson cut by Anthony Edwards with a screen from Julius Randle got him a cleared out right side to attack. The Spurs love to double Edwards to get it out of his hands, but when doing it from one pass away like this, there's no one else to rotate and get a hand up as Randle can easily hit wide open jumpers. They run the same play again, only this time, because Castle jumped the route early, he pops up to the open area, and this triggers a pick and roll with Randle instead. The Spurs were forced to switch after the solid screen, and Ant patiently gets back to an attack position, getting right by Keldon Johnson to the front of the rim. After blocking so many shots, how is it possible Wemby didn't do anything about it? Watch closely and you'll see Randle roll and then Gortat screen Wemby out of there. This is something the Wolves could get a ton of mileage out of if they see it in the film today. This led to one of Fox's 6 turnovers, and it was a bad one, as he tries to split 2 defenders and gets the ball deflected off his knee and out of bounds. The Wolves ran that same Iverson cut for the 3rd time in a row, and Ant got creative by going under the screen in order to find the open space at the right wing. If he doesn't use the entire open right side, he can run an inside ball screen with Randle. Great defense by Johnson on the switch to drive him out towards half court. With the shot clock winding down, Edwards gets into his bag with a little left-right tween that got Johnson on skates a little, and now he's heading into the lane, and it's notable he went off his non-injured right knee for the quick release same hand, same foot floater before Wemby could even get there. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, so they run the same play with Terrence Shannon Jr. cutting to the right wing. The decision to put Wemby on him and Castle on Randle was interesting, and watch how Shannon uses the post-up position of Randle as a screen to get right to the basket for a layup. And they run it one more time with the low right block filled by Randle, which is interesting since this position takes away any baseline drive, but not if he makes like a right tackle and blocks Keldon Johnson out of the way. The problem is he's driving out the wrong player, as Wemby is still free to roam and block this shot viciously off the backboard. But credit to McDaniels for sticking with the loose ball and finding Mike Conley, who had been patiently waiting in the corner for an open 3. And he gives us a true no-dip release that bumped the lead to 9 with under 5 minutes to go. After watching one of Wemby's 12 blocks unfold on this play, Timberwolves head coach Chris Finch had to weigh in his post-game presser.
But when we looked at them, at least 4 of them were goaltending, maybe even a 5th. To me, it's a little alarming that none of them were called. There's a generational shot blocker who's 7'6", who goes after everything, and there's like no heightened awareness that these blocks could be goaltends. I mean, the 3rd possession of the game was a goaltend. So let's just say there were 4. That's also 33% of his blocks. Again, it's just alarming that not a single one of them was called.
Could that have been right? 4 of them were goaltending? We've seen refs miss them before, but that seems like a large number. Along with Wolves fans being upset there weren't some more foul calls on the blocks as well. So I had to bring in Chip Clark, who is a college referee and our man with the plan when it comes to expertise with the NBA rulebook. And Chip, thank you so much for being here. We need you to break these down for us and help us understand why people are really angry, perhaps, and why they shouldn't be, or maybe they should be angry. Let's find out. What do you say?
Absolutely. Let's dig right in.
All right. So we have our first clip here, which is Terrence Shannon Jr. going to the basket and using an inside hand layup, and Rudy comes over to block. What do we say?
As Wemby comes over, he's going to try to block this shot. Shannon throws it up off the glass. But before it hits the glass, Wemby makes contact with the ball and takes the ball to the glass, as the replay clearly shows. Also, from the above the rim replay angle, we can see that the ball has not yet touched the glass. It's still on its upward flight when Wemby takes it to the glass. This is a clean block.
Absolutely. Well, Terrence Shannon Jr. gets a little bit mixed up with him again later on in transition. We have this block. What do we make about this one?
Just a few seconds later, this happens. Now, all that I just said about Wemby on this, throw it out the window on this play. This is an obvious goaltending play. And this is one of the ones that was actually missed last night out of all the plays we're going to look at. This one hits the glass first. It has a chance to score, an opportunity to score. When Wemby takes it off the glass, easy goaltend on that one. That one should have been called.
Absolutely. Well, they know it's hard. It's really fast going in there, and they want
Yeah.
to be sure of it. But next time down, we have Rudy getting a little pocket pass going to the basket and tries to go through him, and we get a block.
Yeah, so one of the big complaints from all these Wemby clips from last night's game is they either said the blocks weren't legitimate, they were goaltends, or that there was a foul on the play, that Wemby created a foul on the play. No foul on this play. It looks like it may be. However, the replay angles show that Wemby gets his fingertips to the ball to dislodge it from Rudy's grasp prior to any arm contact right here. That's what everybody's talking about, is that clip where you see the arm contact here. But replay angle clearly shows Wemby gets his fingertips to the ball to dislodge it first. Therefore, that contact to the arm is deemed marginal and correctly not called as a foul.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I mean, amazing how much he can stretch and get around that guy and not have it be an issue. And we can see here probably more of that arm contact after the fact. There's the block, there's the loose, and then there's contact there. But clearly the ball was knocked loose by his contact.
It's already dislodged. And also another thing that's incredible is the fact that officials, the referees on the game, are able to process this in real time to see the fingertips to the ball prior to the arm contact. Just an incredible job by the officials on this play.
And here's a chance to put all this knowledge to good use by playing PrizePicks. They're now a preferred partner of the NBA. Not only can you win cash by picking higher or lower on a variety of box score categories, now that the playoffs are heating up, they've got a Do It Live 2026 NBA Finals sweepstakes. Pick live squares during the NBA playoffs, and you can win a trip for two to the NBA Finals. To enter, you just make a $5 lineup with at least one live NBA player pick during any part of the 2026 NBA playoffs. Live player picks are picks made after a game is already in progress. My favorite thing to do is flex play, where I don't even have to nail all my picks to win. These are my 3 picks for tonight's games, and if I make it a flex play, I don't even have to nail all of them to win money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, a preferred partner of the NBA. All right, let's get to our next play then, because we have Naz Reid going to the basket hard, trying to figure this out. Now, what was interesting about the whole game was that they continued to attack the basket no matter what, which must have been part of their game plan. Like, he can't block them all, can he? But here, let's see what happens on this play. So Naz Reid, a little step through off one foot. Love it.
This is one that I will tell people I'm not 1,000% sure on. Okay. I'll give the benefit of the doubt and say that this could potentially be a goaltend. We look at this angle here and we see, does Wemby get it at the apex, or has the ball already started its downward flight? The one thing I'll say about this is officials are trained that if the ball's not even crossed the plane of the backboard yet, then the ball's not usually going to be on its downward flight. The only real thing is I wish we could use technology on this to see if it was done its downward flight. This is just, I'll give this a goaltend and a half so far. How about that?
Okay, fair enough. So we got one call that we thought needs to be reversed, and then this one, I'm totally fine with it being on the way, just sort of horizontal. It hasn't really gone down at all to me. So if that's the criteria, then it should be legal.
Yep, exactly. And I will add this. If a challenge was left and this was deep in the game, or if it's in the last 2 minutes, you could expect to see one that's like 50-50 like this to be called by the officials on the floor, so they would be able to review it in a clutch moment of the game. But this early in the game, you're not going to see that called on a 50-50 like that.
All right. Well, this one got pretty messy pretty quickly. And so let's go through this, because if you look at the upward angle here in the very beginning on the first part of the block, you're going to see as Randall shoots the ball, it's going to hit the backboard, and then Wemby hits it. But why is that not goaltending?
It's not goaltending because Barnes was actually the one credited with a block on this play. But I'll add this. So we see Barnes block it into the backboard. Now that he's blocked it into the backboard, it's coming off at an angle where the ball has no opportunity to go into the basket anymore. Therefore, goaltending is off the table. If that ball had been blocked into the backboard by Barnes, just because he blocked it doesn't mean that goaltending is off the table completely. If that ball, any ball from the playing court, has an opportunity, is above the basket and on its downward flight, having an opportunity to still score, and somebody touches it, then it would still be goaltending. However, on this play, this ball comes off the glass at an angle where it has no possibility of even touching the basket, much less scoring. So when Wemby touches the ball, this is not a goaltending. This is one of the ones everybody was saying was a goaltend. It is not a goaltend.
Yeah, I think what they missed clearly was that Barnes blocked the ball first, and I had pointed that out. It's pretty when I saw this just on the television broadcast that like clearly there was something going on there that completely made it ricochet in a different direction. So okay, so that's all well and good. So now we know why that's not part of it. Now we have a little bit of a messiness going on in here. What do we make of this block?
Yep. So there's other angles too that we see on this one that where Wemby is straight up with both arms. He's got his left arm up and his right arm up. Then as Randall lifts to shoot, Wemby does come down with that right arm, but he does not go through Randall's arm at all to get to the ball. The initial contact is with the ball, and then any contact after that is going to be deemed marginal. This is not a foul on Wemby. His left arm stays vertical until the end. It goes up with Randall's body. He doesn't hold him down at all. The right arm is the one that comes forward at the last second to dislodge the ball. Therefore, this is a legal play and a correct no call. Yeah, and then the shot clock violation happens right after that.
I mean, yeah, and it was messy, so I understand what was going on here. And then
there may be a foul on that initial rebound. The initial rebound for Randall, there may have been a foul by Wemby there. However, refs are taught to be a little bit more patient in that situation because Randall looks to have an advantage in getting that rebound. So after that initial contact right there, could have potentially been a loose ball foul. But then Randall gets to the ball, looks like he has an easy chance to go up, and then Wemby recovers because he pump fakes, and then that's where we have the block shot.
Absolutely. So, all right, now let's get back to Rudy coming in another little pass inside. He goes up strong and cannot get the ball toward the basket. So what do we make of this call?
This is another play where when fans see this, they see the contact and the result of contact, but fail to see that the hand gets to the ball first before any body or arm contact. We see there's no contact to the head of Rudy yet, not to the arm. That happens after the legally blocked shot. If you're just looking at bodies here, you may think that there's obvious foul. It's not. If you're high pointing the ball with your eyes and you're able to see where that first initial point of contact is, it is to the ball. This is a legally blocked shot and a correct no call.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the key here. I know it sucks when you see like some contact later on that looks pretty bad, but it's, again, if you can, it has to be dislodged, right? That's the key here. A clean contact of the ball, and then the ball needs to be loose from the guy's hand, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of it too. But there's other plays like this one and others that you could make an argument that he gets his hand to the ball as at the same time or simultaneously as arm contact. If the result of that is the ball being dislodged, more times than not, it's going to be considered marginal or incidental contact because the block shot is what disadvantaged the player, not the contact.
Yeah. And we had this in an argument, another play where, you could find maybe one frame of video after the contact where the ball appears to still be in the guy's hand. But it's clear that when that contact is made by the defender and the ball does eventually kind of come out of the guy's hand, that is what caused the ball to be dislodged. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's 100% fair to say.
Well, let's get to our last play, which I believe, which is Anthony Edwards going to the basket strong and stepping through between two defenders. As if that wasn't enough to have to score on this game, he's got to deal with Wemby on the other side, who blocks this ball off the backboard. What do we make of this one?
This is another great example of how officiating is so tough, right? Officiating so tough because at first glance, live speed, game speed, to a lot of people, they think that they could swear up and down that this is a goaltend. But when you see the instant replay reviews of this and from the different angles, we see that clearly and obviously Wemby gets his hand to the ball prior to the ball making contact with the glass. He takes it to the glass, not off the glass. This is a legally blocked shot. Again, common theme in this video. Sorry, guys. It is a legally blocked shot and correctly no called on the play. You can make a case for a potential foul before that, but not on Wemby. It is not a foul on Wemby at all. I think that one other thing I will say about this play, I can't remember who was that defender that was the primary defender on Ant on that play.
Oh, it's Champagny.
Yeah, Champagny. Gotcha. So you can make an argument. So as soon as Ant releases the ball, Champagny swings his arm and makes high five contact in a secondary motion with Anthony Edwards' hand and arm, right? Kind of swats it out of the way. We have patient whistles on this place to see where the disadvantage is caused. Did that contact cause a disadvantage to Anthony Edwards? No, it didn't on this play because Wemby blocks the shot. That's where the disadvantage comes in. However, this would be consistent with fouls that have been called on jump shooters and stuff like that if they had called a foul on Champagny here for that secondary motion where he swipes and hits Anthony Edwards' hand after he releases the ball. That's what Anthony Edwards was upset about, turned around to complain to the ref about. On this play, I'm not sure it was enough to call a foul because the disadvantage comes when Wemby blocks the shot. This had no chance of going in because of the legally blocked shot. Therefore, Ant was not disadvantaged on that play.
Great explanation of that one, because of course Anthony Edwards is going to feel like he got fouled. He was definitely upset about it. Maybe also was upset about a potential goaltend, but we can clearly see that was not one. So I think we got basically one that I think that they missed off of the backboard, and maybe the one when Naz shoots it and maybe he gets it, but I don't think so. So I think the rest did a pretty darn good job of getting these right.
Yeah, goaltending basket interference plays are probably the second or third toughest behind out of bounds plays that officials will tell you in the NBA are the toughest plays to officiate. For them to have 13 blocked shots when you consider the 12 from Wemby and the one from Barnes where Wemby took it off the glass after Barnes blocked it. Out of those 13 plays, getting one wrong, probably not a bad percentage when those are the toughest.
Okay, so for our last thing I want to go through here is a step through that Anthony Edwards did deep in the fourth quarter. Didn't really matter because they didn't score on this one, so no harm, no foul. But I think people thought this was a travel, clearly, and I want to make sure people understand that it really wasn't a travel. So let's go through what we saw here when he steps through on the left wing here. So what are you seeing, Chip?
Progressing player to start with, right? Gathers with his left foot on the floor. That's his zero step, right? His gather step. He gathers with the left foot on the floor, probably around here, and he's lifting that right foot while he's doing that. So he's still a progressing player. Comes to a stop by putting his right foot on the floor for step one. So he's come to a stop with both feet on the floor. That means his step one foot, his right foot, has become his pivot foot. That's important to note. Now that he's come to a stop, he's established his right foot as his pivot foot. He lifts that non-pivot left foot to step through. This is where the controversy comes in. All right. Is this a jump or a step? And what do the rules have to say about it? Is there any height limit on a step? We've talked about this plenty of times before. There's no height limit on a step, right? The only rule that you can maybe point to here is to say, is the NBA rule that says if a player jumps off both feet, neither foot can return to the floor. He didn't jump off both feet on this. This was intended to be a step through where he kind of launches forward a little bit, then lands on his left foot and releases the ball prior to his right pivot foot returning to the floor. Technically, this is a legal play, but I understand completely why some people may think that this was a travel.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, you want to say it's a jump. And remember, the rules say both feet, lifting off of both feet, which makes sense. Like you're jumping into a jump shot off of both feet, which is also, they weren't thinking about me and my runners that we like to shoot from.
Right. You're one-footed runners.
But either way, I agree. People might be surprised that when you're running, you have both feet in the air at some time during each individual step. So there's no height rule limitation, and we couldn't ever expect a referee to enforce any kind of height limit to how long, how high how high your step can be.
Right.
So, this looks like a very normal, he's stepping and then making the pass. So that's what the rule is, and I think it's clear to make sure that the right foot is the pivot because he gathers the left foot as a progressing player. That one is a thing that I think is eluding people too. They're thinking the left foot is being lifted and then put back down and then trying to release the ball into a pass. That's not what happened.
No, it's not what happened. And it's tough to see in real time, too, to be honest with you. I mean, and also, too, you could argue that he got fouled as he's trying to split the two defenders with arm contact, lower body contact, which maybe caused him to launch forward a little bit to try to get through that contact. That made it look more like a jump than a step. But again, he didn't jump off both feet. That rule implies for jump shooters. It's an implication towards jump shooters who jump off both feet and then return one or both feet to the floor before releasing the ball. That's not the case on this one. So I think technically that this is a legal play, although it is the reason it gets people in a frenzy is it looks awkward, and awkward does not equal a travel.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Chip, for coming on here and breaking this down. We'll see you on a live show coming up really quickly, I'm sure. But lots more to go through. This has been a great playoff so far, right? Absolutely.
Been a great playoffs. I'll say one more thing before we go. We didn't get to about 5 or so of Wemby's other blocks, and that's because they should not be controversial in the least. No replay needed. Easily legally blocked shots. No fouls occurred on those 5 either. No need to even talk about them tonight.
All right, great points. Thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next one. What was notable about the run we went over in the fourth was that it coincided with Rudy going to the bench, which forced Wemby to defend other players and got him away from controlling the paint. Putting him back in at the end of the game leads the Wolves to be susceptible to this sort of thing. Instant fouls and putting him on the line where he was able to hit 1 of 2 and keep their lead manageable. Rather than run some sort of offense to generate a good shot, they targeted their best one-on-one matchup with Devin Vassell guarding the much bigger and stronger Julius Randle. Not wanting to compromise the defense into a scramble, the Spurs decided to stay at home and not double to get out of his hands, and they paid the price with this bank shot. And then they were thoroughly embarrassed by this lack of any type of play to get the ball in bounds, as Anthony Edwards throws a dying quail that easily gets turned into a pick six, and now the Spurs are going to get the ball back to win it, especially because the Wolves run zero offense and just pray Randall can be that guy, which he isn't. We know this. And here's the moment of truth. Do you call a timeout and get your young and inexperienced team some organization with a well-designed out-of-bounds play? The key here is that ideally you get a shot and a chance to tip it in, especially with someone like Wemby out there, and that is simply not possible when the rebound is grabbed with 7 seconds left. Now, this is a good shot they got from Champagnie, no one is going to argue that, but it takes time for it to get to the basket in the air, and that means it's a do or die when it didn't necessarily have to be. A sideline out of bounds play for a quick attack and if missed, a tip in would have given them a better chance at winning. And now the Spurs have lost home court advantage, and they need to make sure they haven't lost their swagger in the process.